It is time for another Syria update, so let's start with the good news. By several countries, including Russia, Syria, Iraq, and I believe the United States at this point, but definitely many more, they've declared ISIS in Syria defeated, and Iraq has declared ISIS in Iraq defeated. Which is excellent because, if you think about it, just to begin in 2015, they controlled about half of Syria and a good quarter of Iraq. So that is remarkable that a group that had such momentum, that was on such rise, that was just taking territory, has been beaten back so far. Now, that is largely thanks to the military efforts of Russia and them getting directly involved in September 2015. They have been relentless against the Islamic State. It's funny because a lot of people like to give credit to the United States, especially when now the Trump's come in. I mean, Trump has been doing it for 10 months, and Russia's been doing it for 2.5 years, yet look where the credit goes. And, Russia's the boogeyman as always, but I put my personal views aside because I'm trying to give an objective analysis, but I got off on a tangent there. I apologize. But yeah, overall, the Islamic State is defeated, and that is obviously a good thing. And I have also been proven wrong to the benefit of everyone. I expect there to be a rise in terrorist attacks in the United States and Western Europe upon the defeat of ISIS because I figured they were going to go out with some final blows and kill as many people as they could before they were destroyed. But I was proven wrong there. Now, that could still happen, and I hope it does, obviously, but that's something to keep your eye out for. And this has honestly happened earlier than I expected. So I said ICE has until February of 2018, but with the way we're looking, they probably have until about a week after the new year. And like I said, they've been declared defeated. They still have pockets there, but they've become an afterthought for most people. Now let's focus our attention on the Free Syrian Army here, which is all this stuff in green. That includes groups like the FSA, Al-Sham, basically a coalition of just anti-Assad groups with no unifying ideology except the fact that they are opposed to Assad ruling Syria. Now, like I said, you gotta keep in mind, the group in Idlib, over here in the Idlib province, is Al-Sham, formerly known as Al-Nusra, and it actually includes them up there. I don't know why they do different colors, but that's worth noting that they're controlled by the same area. And then the Free Syrian Army here in the southwest, which there was a pretty good ceasefire that held up for a few months there. Pretty sure it got broken, but that's aside the point. Now, they did make some gains in the past few weeks. The last couple Syrian updates I made, they were making gains because the Syrian forces, Russian forces, were focused so far in the east because they were fighting ISIS, since that was the main threat at the time. But you can see with like these red rifles, that's a sign of ground offensive. These like little bomb things, those are signs of like air offensives. That the Syrian army is making gains against Al-Sham and Idlib, which is good because Al-Sham is basically, they hold the same ideology as ISIS. They're Salafists, they're Wahhabists. They just don't want to take it outside of Syria. They're just a more nationalistic form of it. While ISIS is internationalist and they want the worldwide caliphate, but still, just as brutal, just the same terrible ideas that they want to enforce, just where they want to enforce them. So if they can be driven from the country by its legitimate government, I say that's a good thing. We can zoom even further. And like I said, there still are pockets of the Islamic State in other places, but overall, they are a fraction of what they once were and a shell of them former selves, which is an excellent thing. And you can see the megaphones are announcements, which I won't get into. Like I said, I'll link the map like I always do if you want to take a look at it for yourself. It's actually pretty interesting. They do other conflicts too, like you can see all the names of these countries at the top. So they have one on Israel and Palestine, which has been heating up lately, which has been interesting. And speaking of Israel, they have been making their moves against the Assad government for the past couple months. Now, they don't show it on this map because of the limitations of the map, but they have been striking weapons depots. They, I believe, actually hit some Iranian troops assisting Syrian forces. So there's that. And so let's address the big yellow elephant in the room, and that are the Kurdish forces. Now, my prediction largely panned out, but granted, it was a more obvious prediction that most people could have saw. Most people who kept up with the war could have seen. That has split along the Euphrates. The Syrian Arab Army and their allies control everything west of the Euphrates, whereas the Kurdish forces, the SDF, the YPG, control things east of the Euphrates, which, surprise. Now, I have my disagreements with the Kurds. In a lot of ways, they have assisted ISIS. A lot of them have joined ISIS, a lot of Kurdish people. And they also do have some questionable ideas, but they have pushed back ISIS to their credit in northeastern Syria. I will give them that. But There has been tensions between Assad and the Kurds lately. I actually had an entire Syria update episode dedicated to that. That was the title of it. But this is just a disaster waiting to happen, and it is going to happen eventually. I say it doesn't happen until about a couple months into the new year, but that's just my prediction. I've been wrong before. And the way I see this going is the Kurds are guerrilla fighters, and they are good guerrilla fighters, but they will ultimately lose if they go to war against the Syrian government. Now, another interesting development, I think I'll just close it out with this one, is the international involvement. Now, Russia said that they are withdrawing most of their troops and declaring the war over in Syria, but they're keeping the naval base and air base that they previously had there because it's their only base outside the Soviet Union. They want to keep influence in Syria, and especially since it just metaphorically burst into flames. As I said, metaphorically, of course, but in a lot of ways, literally, but that's beside the point. They're keeping their two military bases operational in Syria to keep influence there and also to keep the terror threat down. And the United States also admitted about a month ago that they had more than the 2,000 troops that they said previously were in Syria, and that they're keeping them there indefinitely to counter Iranian influence, which I find concerning because that just creates an entire situation where a major regional war could break out. And that obviously would not be good, and I am not sure whether that's just talk or whether we actually are keeping them there. However, word from the Trump administration is that Assad can stay in power until the 2021 elections, but then has to step down. So we'll see how things change in the next 3 years, but I'm not sure. Of course, Trump may have just fallen victim to the Assad must go curse, which has destroyed many political careers before, and that's really all I have to say about Syria this time around. I'll make another video if something big comes up, but that's all today, and goodbye.